Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division Resurgence. And today, now that the game has been out for a handful of weeks, one of the last kind of launch coverage videos that I wanted to make was circling back around to making an endgame farming guide. As the weeks, months, in-game updates, and seasons go on, more and more of you are going to be reaching the endgame, and all of the time spent thereafter with the game will be in this loop, trying to farm the best gear to power up your builds. And so I figured it might be good to put a video out on how to best go about that. Specifically, we're going to be zeroing in on the importance of Tier 2 gear, OS protocols, and chipsets. In my view, those are the three most core elements to any good build in the Division Resurgence, and I specifically wanted to highlight these as not all of these systems are present in the Division 2, which I assume many of you watching are more familiar with, so we'll talk about what they are, and then of course how to best go about farming them. So, hope that sounds good. We'll get straight to it. If you enjoyed this one and you want to see more coverage on Resurgence and the Division as a whole, then be sure to subscribe. A big shout out and thank you to our channel members. Thank you so much for your support each and every month, allowing me to do what I love on here. But without further ado, let's get to it. And let's begin with your gear, specifically Tier 2 gear. Weapons and gear pieces are the most fundamental components to a Division agent's loadouts, and that is the same here in Resurgence as it is in the Division 1 and 2. In Resurgence, however, gear rarity is not everything. On top of the color of your items, right, whether they are the purple, superior, or the gold high-end, gear tiers also come into play. So, by just generally playing the endgame, whether that be open world activity, nests, game modes, whatever, you will regularly be receiving Tier 0 and Tier 1 items. Now, before saying anything more, it is important to note that items below Tier 2 are not unusable, right? Far from it. A good roll is a good roll regardless of which item it comes on, especially if that item comes with a Tier 2 talent, which is something that can happen even if the item itself is not Tier 2. However, compared to Tiers 0 and 1, Tier 2 gear does come with higher stats, simply put. So over time, the eventual goal, if you want to attain maximum power, is to get Tier 2 gear with the proper rolls that slots into your build and class. So, how do we go about getting it? Well, there are currently only two sources of Tier 2 gear. The primary one of those being Legendary Difficulty, also known as the Elite Mission Challenge. This is a designated game mode alongside the likes of the Dark Zone, Lone Wolf, etc. It becomes available once you reach level 40. Important to note, though, this mode has no matchmaking. You must either have a pre-made group to enter or use Resurgence's built-in group finder. Now, Legendary is mostly straightforward. It is just significantly harder versions of the game's 8 main missions over the usual normal through heroic difficulties. In the Elite Mission Challenge, Tier 2 gear and weapons will drop as loot, much the same as items will drop anywhere else in the game, and then mission bosses of course drop larger amounts of it. It's also worth noting that the Elite Mission Challenge offers you bonus caches for your first 2 completions of the mission per week. Now, these aren't like targeted or special drops in any way, it is just more random Tier 2 gear, but it is still more loot nonetheless, so don't forget to go back to this screen when you do your first 2 completions. But that is really kind of the thing to underscore here. There is no targeted farming when it comes to Tier 2. You're not more likely to get set bonuses that align with your class and specialization, so get ready to be playing a lot of Legendary Difficulty. Now, we did mention that there is an alternative drop source for Tier 2 gear, and that is from the Dark Zone, specifically from heroic roaming DZ bosses as well as heroic landmarks. That said, these are extremely rare drops to see, so the Dark Zone is not going to be nearly as reliable for Tier 2 gear as the Elite Mission Challenge is, but if you're lucky, it is an option. Alright, next up, let's talk chipsets, also known as our skill mods. In Resurgence, skills are dictated by your specialization choice, but whichever one you go with, you will see that each skill has 3 total slots for mods. Different than the Division 1 and 2, however, skill mods, which from here on out we will refer to as chipsets, these can have bonuses, just like brand sets or gear sets. So not only is it valuable to get good chips with good stats, but selecting proper set bonuses and receiving their full benefit will noticeably improve the power and efficiency of your loadout. The good news is, of the 3 main categories we are looking at in this video, this is one of the easier loot types to pursue. So, chipset drops are tied to the Dark Zone. However, before you enter, when you visit the DZ screen, you will notice that there is a slot to select your targeted chipset loot. And opening this up allows you to select whichever set of chips from any specialization or spec focus that you would like to receive more of. It is not a guarantee that that is the only loot you will get, but it's better than nothing. This menu is also a great way to glance at all of the available set bonuses, right? Decide on what sounds most applicable to your build and playstyle for each skill. Once you've figured out what you want, select that, and then once you're within the dark zone, you can mostly do whatever you want. Do keep in mind that difficulty in the DZ is very much tied to loot quality, so seeking out challenging or heroic bosses and landmarks is your best shot at getting purple and gold chipsets. I tend to focus on the roaming DZ bosses. There's often a lot of players that will group up and take those things down. If you're quick enough in the chaos, you can also steal the DZ boss chests while it and other players are distracted. That thing can net you some pretty good rewards, but of course be cautious of other players flagging rogue on you if you try to. However you go about getting your loot, keep in mind that if you do score that perfect drop and you're worried about losing it, you can visit any safe room within the DZ to have the NPC smuggle your loot out as opposed to extracting it. That will set you back a few DZ credits, but it's worth it. Finally, then do keep in mind that the DZ vendor at the base rotates in new selections of chips each day, so if you're sitting on a lot of DZ credits, be sure to regularly check in to see if they have one that you might want. Alright, and then last but not least, let's talk OS protocols. These are probably the most different type of items compared to anything we've ever had before in the Division 1 and 2, but more or less these are just very class-defining talent selections, right? Your build can largely revolve around your OS protocol, the same way that a good OS props up and is a powerhouse for your build. So there are two main ways of obtaining OS protocols in Resurgence. The first is going to be the bounty system. Each week, Resurgence cycles in new bounty targets. You need to reveal 3 lieutenants by completing open world activities, and upon doing that and taking those 3 down, that then reveals the main target. These lieutenants can award you with random green and blue OSs, but the main target is the one that you want to make sure you do each week, as they have a chance to drop purple OSs, but also then function as the only gameplay source for gold high-end OS protocols. Now, whether or not you get one is random, but even if you do, the selection is random, right? It might not synergize with your build or what you're looking for. So that may sound like a tough grind, and it is. Unfortunately, though, it starts to make a bit more sense when you look at the other main source for higher tier OS protocols, and that is the in-game store. So I want to let you know right off the bat, I do not recommend you spend any money on these sealed caches. This is the most gacha-like system that Resurgence has, because while it flashes all of these gold and purple OS protocols, if you look at the listed drop rates for them, they're incredibly low. Now, you may have noticed that I myself have one high-end OS protocol. I ended up getting extremely lucky by pulling one of these out of these crates using one of the gameplay earned shade keys. And so that's the catch. These sealed caches are designed as a money sink, but you can earn shade keys, which are also eligible to be used to open them up. These keys are awarded in a few different places. Commendations is one example. I think there's also promotional stuff like daily logins that can give you them. So if you've got a few keys laying around and you want to throw all of them at these caches, be my guest. But once again, just due to the sheer improbability of getting one, I cannot recommend you spend your money on these. Before you crash out too hard about the FOMO of it all, though, which this system does create, I do want to stress that getting a shiny gold OS protocol is not the end-all be-all. Because one important stipulation to keep in mind is that OS protocol talents can only be leveled up by donating duplicate protocols. And so while these high-end ones are very powerful, they're also the hardest to level up given the rarity of obtaining one to begin with. And so because of that, a fully leveled blue OS, even a moderately leveled purple one, those will still compete just fine in the endgame compared to a non-leveled gold one. So if you're somebody who's got that well-rolled blue OS, you've been unlucky from any of the caches that you may have opened, it's okay, just stick with it, run those bounty targets every week, that is your shot at getting better protocols. And the final tip I will give is do not forget that after you defeat a bounty target, you want to go back into the bounty menu to claim the rewards from there, as this is actually the spot that will award you with the purple and gold drops should you be lucky enough to get one from the main target. So there you have it, my friends. That is the overview and guide to endgame build farming in the Division Resurgence. I really hope this helped out. Again, I anticipate many settling into this loop for the foreseeable future. I wanted to get the information out there for any who may need it. At this point, if you have any remaining questions about build farming in the Division Resurgence, any of the categories we went over in this video, anything whatsoever, leave that down below and I will do my very best to clear things up for you or point you in the right direction if I don't have the answer. But yeah, as stated in the intro, this is about the last of the Resurgence video ideas that I had. If you want any additional coverage on the game from here on out, do let me know any ideas that you have and I'll certainly keep it under consideration. But that's all I've got for you on this one. Thank you all very much for coming by and watching, and until I see you next, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And